Hey guys, Eric and Chris here to talk about the big Breaking Bad mid-season finale, gliding overall, the last episode of the year, the last episode until sometime next summer, but they certainly left us a lot to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the big reveal, Hank finding out about Walt, and what level do you think he actually found out about him?
I mean, I think that clearly there is so much more for him to discover. He knows no details, but I do think that he's there now. Like I don't think he's going to be thinking maybe this was Walt Gale was talking about. I think, this is my theory, is that he is thinking, oh my God, we were talking about what Walt and I were discussing him together. Right. How is that possible will be what he'll next have to unravel. But we already watched him do it with Gus last season. He is a smart guy and kind of can work backwards. So that's where I'm curious to see it go next year.
And how about Walt leaving such a big clue out? Is that sloppy for him, do you think?
Yeah, this episode overall I really liked it, and I loved the first half, which we should talk about later. But I did think it's a little hard to justify Walt having that book out there, And I've read some theories, and people say, well, it was sort of his arrogance and his hubris and feeling like he beat Gale, that maybe he'd keep it at all. And I guess I can say I could see that. Yeah. But having it anywhere that, people who come in through the home, and including family members, could pick up, that one's a little difficult.
Yeah, I think of anything, it's arrogance. But yeah, it does raise questions like, even Skyler could be like, who's this book from? Who's GB? What is this? And I'm sure he could explain it away. He's a very good liar, but I don't think he's going to be able to explain it away to Hank. And now that Hank has made that connection in his mind, Walt's effed.
I think he is. I mean, I'm guessing, Hank is, once he finishes his business in that bathroom, I don't think he's going to burst out and say, it's you. No. But it's going to be, what does he do next with that information, and how he's going to start to try to work against Walt next year.
That'd be an awesome place to have ESP, just to kind of eavesdrop on what's going on in Hank's mind.
Yeah.
As he's sitting there with Hank, it's probably something like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. But outwardly, he's going to have to be pretty cool about it.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting thing. And can he keep his cool? And because it is literally someone so close to home. He's just been taking care of this guy's kids for the past few months, And, does it even, if he busts Walt, what does that do to Hank, though? I mean, even though he'd be taking down Heisenberg, would it make Hank look bad that Heisenberg was under his nose the whole time? There's a lot of ramifications to think about with that.
I think Hank has an easy out if he wants to let Walt go free.
Yeah.
And I think the way it may play out is Hank may just say, get out of here. Mm-hmm. You're never coming back here. I won't, pursue this, but you're never gonna see your kids again. You're never gonna see Skyler again. You need to get out of town.
That could be one way it is, because I mean, certainly he'll be furious, but how does he exactly handle it is what we're curious about. A lot happened in this episode, and if anything, I'd fault it for too much happening. I almost felt like we could have used one more episode to kind of spread this story out, because the first half was so thrilling, and it had, the aftermath of Mike's death, and then it had how is he going to deal with the 9 guys, and a great scene with Walt and Lydia, I thought, when they sat down together.
And Lydia's still playing the sort of I don't know what I'm doing thing, but she kind of made a switch there, and she's like, oh wait, I'm actually a big player in this situation. Yeah, that was a great scene for her, showing that she's very smart, and she was completely correct, as we saw at the end of the scene, because he had the ricin with him. He was going to kill her, because why wouldn't he once he got the information? But she knew exactly how to play that and say, I know you're going to kill me, but here's why you shouldn't. And, and say you can become more powerful and make more money, which is exactly what he wants to do at the moment. And yeah, she put herself as a very important cog in that machine. And as we saw there was 2 big montages in this episode. The first being the total gangland one where, Walt at the height of his sort of evil power having these guys taken out. And thank God that was a montage and not drown out any further. That was brutal.
That was brutal. I don't want to be killed via the multiple quick shivving,
No, you don't.
Or the burning.
Yeah, I don't need to know anything more worse stuff that goes on in prison. There's already a few things I don't want to see in prison. That's one of them I never want to experience.
That was pretty intense. What was interesting was to have in the same hour the other montage, which moved us forward 3 months, which in Breaking Bad time is a huge jump to make, to see that everything went great for Walt after that. Him, Lydia, and Todd, and Skyler, to the extent that she's helping with the laundering, they were building this empire that Walt wanted.
But Lydia essentially neutralized him by giving him as much money as he could ever want.
Yeah.
He's pretty much made it boring for him, I think.
Right, and I think the big question, you know, where the episode in and of itself makes it a little hard to be like, okay, we're already going to go to him saying I'm going to quit because he did kind of get more than he even eventually really needed. The big question mark, and that'll kind of help explain things, I think, next year is what were the results of that MRI?
Yeah.
You know, and we have reasons to think from that opening scene of the season that he got sick again. He seemed to be coughing, taking pills. Is this all a swerve? You know, maybe he's not, maybe it's not the cancer again, but right now it certainly seems like it. He got the MRI results, and after that, he seemed much more resigned when Skylar came to him to say, yeah, I will quit. This is it.
Yeah, it was weird though. I didn't really know where he was gonna go with it until really that moment. And I mean, it was kind of cool. It was kind of a nice breath of relief when he was like, I'm out. And you're like, oh, okay, okay. But you just knew, like, that whole scene leading up to Hank finding out, like, anything could have happened. It was impending doom, that whole scene. It was so beautifully directed.
It was wonderfully done, and I know that I've read many people say the same thing. You're watching that scene, and you actually feel so much dread and fear. You know, I was so concerned for the kids that a shot was gonna ring out, that something terrible was gonna happen at that moment. You know, it was too mundane. You know, Walter White is not gonna get this. I mean, that we literally know there's 8 more episodes, but yeah, you know, something bad was about to happen.
And how about Crystal Blue Persuasion?
Yeah.
How long were they holding on to that song?
I know, I've seen a lot of people ask that, is like, you know, did they know years ago we've got to use this song, or was it more recently someone say you got to use the song? Either way, it was perfectly done, and I did love that montage in and of itself. I just kind of felt like maybe one more episode to show him getting there, but there was some great stuff along the way. Jesse, who was only in a couple scenes this episode, that scene where Walt went to talk to him, and the fact that, you know, we see at the end of the scene that Jesse had a gun on him because that's who Walter White has become, and he's very justified, Jesse, in having that gun.
Definitely. And I mean, that scene played out nicely too. I just felt like, you know, he almost doesn't believe that Walt is capable of change at this point. Yeah. And I think it was a relief to him, but at the same time, I think he's a little perplexed by it. Yeah, yeah. And that scene also had them reminiscing about the RV. It's a big episode for callbacks, a lot of visual ones, from the fly to the paper towel thing that he dented. There was all these sort of, you know, callbacks to earlier in the show, which you could see for Walt was kind of making him run through everything that's happened. I think that, you know, the one, you know, again, saying this episode was not as great as maybe every Breaking Bad episode, was that because we've watched Walt get worse and worse and worse, culminating with not just killing Mike, but taking out those 9 guys, it was a pretty quick swerve back to, you know, maybe not the old Walt, but maybe like I can step away. But of course, the thing with Hank is just going to prove that you can't step away. Yeah, that's true. But you know, him being in the Empire business, it kind of doesn't ring true anymore, because once he's atop the Empire, it seems like it bores him, and he just wants to end it. Yeah, yeah. Though that was a very impressive stack of money. Yes. Yeah, I mean, clearly he was in the Empire business. He was. So plenty to chew on till next year for this final 8 episodes. What do you think's going to happen next? What do you think Hank's next move is, and where will it all lead? We still have to catch up to the 52nd birthday, and it seems like a lot's going to happen then. So let us know in the comments, and we'll be back next year to talk about Breaking Bad.